City of Stevens Point Common Council meeting, recorded September 21st, 2020.
Okay, we're still having people pop in, but I do count all 11 alders present. So with that, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 7:01, and this is the regular Common Council meeting. Clerk Yenter, would you please call the roll?
Jennings.
Here.
Shore.
Here.
Nabel.
Here.
Zarazua.
Here.
Johnson.
Present.
Flowinski.
I see the name, so he's connected. I just don't, he has not unmuted. But if we could mark him as present, please.
Sure. Kneebone.
Here.
Leek.
Here.
Dalton.
Here. Here.
Fischler.
Here.
Here.
Morrow.
Here.
11 present.
Okay, we have 11 present. That is a quorum. Before we go to the pledge, I'd like to just lay out a few of the ground rules for anyone who hasn't been on our Zoom meetings. Please keep yourself on mute unless you are speaking. If you wish to comment on any of the topics, raise your hand, give a visual wave, or if that doesn't work, if you're on your phone, unmute yourself, and we'll try to keep it as less confusing as possible. So we only have one person speaking at a time. There is a public hearing tonight, so we will be very diligent in making sure everyone has an opportunity to speak at the public hearing. And I just got a message in the chat from Alder Slawinski that he is here and unmuted now. So
Can you hear me now?
We can, sir. We did mark you as present.
All right. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there, but.
Okay. And as always with the Zoom meetings, we will be a little slower just so we don't miss anything. We want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to speak or add their comments if they need to. So with that, I'm going to step aside, and if you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag
of the United States of America,
United States of America,
to the republic
for which it stands, one nation under God,
indivisible, with
liberty and
justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. What we normally do in a face-to-face meeting at this point is see if there's anyone wishing to address the Common Council on a non-agenda item for up to 3 minutes. Is there anyone currently on here that would like to address the Common Council on a non-agenda item for up to 3 minutes? Alder Slawinski would like to speak on item number 4. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the Common Council on a non-agenda item? Okay, I don't believe there is anyone else. So with that, we will move to item number 4, which is persons who wish to address the mayor and the Common Council for up to 3 minutes regarding a non-agenda item. And Alder Slawinski, you signed up, so you have the floor.
So there's an item here further down in the agenda that we're going to be speaking about later on this evening. It's ordinance section 9.12 regarding bicycle and motor bicycle ordinance. I guess what I would like to do is I would like to request the mayor, I guess, create a group to, I guess, review this ordinance with the addition to all the bike lanes that have been installed within the city. I would like to have this ordinance looked at and kind of cleaned up and brought up to par regarding, I guess, bicycle users not following the law. And I would like to add I would just like the whole ordinance reviewed and possibly add some teeth to this ordinance so that we can start enforcing some of these lawbreakers that are kind of making the biking public look bad. I've seen a lot of bicyclists running stop signs, not utilizing their hand signals when they're turning, not yielding for pedestrians, bike helmets, licenses on the bikes. Being that we're going to be, supposedly we're going to be seeing a lot more bikes. I have yet to see them, but if we're going to be, if these bikes are going to be sharing the road, they need to start obeying the laws, and the few that are not need to be held accountable and just treated like any motor vehicle, where there's citations and such like that. So I guess again, I'm requesting that the mayor, put together a group, and I'd be more than happy to be part of this group. Maybe obviously somebody from law enforcement, somebody from the bike and the PED commission, maybe somebody from Corey's office. Again, this thing is it's outdated, and I feel that it needs to be reviewed and updated. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderperson. I'm going to ask another time, just to be safe. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council for up to 3 minutes on a non-agenda item? How long was the protocol, President Johnson? 5 seconds?
Actually, my boss is 7 seconds.
7 seconds.
It's a 7-second wait. So.
All right, we've done that and then some.
You've done your due diligence.
I don't see anyone else wishing to speak. So with that, we have a presentation this month from Alex Perlstein with Alchemy Community Transformations in regards to the community assessment findings. Now, Alex, I have a copy of your PowerPoint. Would you like me to do it, or would you like to share your screen?
Whatever is easiest for you. I can try to share my screen.
Okay, let me see if I need to give you any kind of special permission to do that.
Yeah, I think you might need to make me co-host just temporarily.
Well, I don't have a co-host. So what I'm going to do, Alex, is I'm going to make you host. And then upon completion of your presentation, you will have to return the hostship to me.
Yes, and I will do my very best to know how to do that.
I can walk you through that part of it.
Okay.
All right, so you are now the host, and you may share your screen.
Thank you. Okay, can everyone see the PowerPoint?
Yep.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to present to you all tonight. We are not going to take a lot of time, and we'll have some time at the end for questions if any of the alderpersons have any questions. Just to briefly introduce ourselves, we are a team, the placemaking team of a larger engineering firm that's based in Clive, Iowa. And they do a lot of traditional civil engineering, and we are sort of the folks that talk about communities and how you can make them more dynamic for talent, and what type of plans might be necessary, or projects to really kind of make you a more dynamic place for people who want to either stay in the community or come to the community. We're really focused on what are those really actionable opportunities that we can help you implement through our council, and also through identification of resources. We really think it's about resources, but also leadership, really supporting and moving these projects forward. We are joined on the team by Create Portage County, which is a local organization focused on creative enterprises, but also entrepreneurship and other ways to really move the economy forward. This is the team that is working on your behalf on this project. I am managing along with Libby Crimmings, who is with us tonight, but has 3 kids by herself tonight. Her husband is out, so that's why she's not on video. But our principal placemaker, Zach Manheimer, and other folks on the team are active in the project, as well as Greg Wright, who's been a great resource to provide that kind of local perspective on Stevens Point. Really, this process is about jumping on your moving train. I mean, you have momentum. You're a dynamic place where people are interested in investing and people are interested in being. But you know, what potentially are some gaps? What are potentially some challenges, opportunities that are not being addressed that we can incorporate into this plan and really kind of take the community forward behind a common vision for what that future looks like, focus resources, build partnerships to implement this plan. It's a 4-phase process. We have completed the stakeholder input phase. We had 2 open invitation visioning sessions, which attracted about 50 to 60 folks. We had one-on-one interviews, focus groups with different constituencies of local residents, and we had an online survey that received almost 400 or 1,400 responses, which is really great. A lot of interest in the survey and a lot of great feedback from the community, and that factored into the research that was incorporated into this community assessment, which is the phase we're in now. So it's that qualitative input along with some statistical work that we did in the office, and we try to identify some themes, some narratives, some challenges and opportunities that can ultimately inform the strategic plan, which really kind of represents what the city can do, needs to do to move towards attainment of its vision to be a competitive place in the next 10, 20 years for the type of individual, the type of company that you want to retain and attract. And then the final phase is the implementation action plan, which is really about how to operationalize the plan, resource needs, resource identification, who's going to lead and support these efforts. It's not going to be the city. You're going to need partners from across the community. When are we going to phase in these projects? We're not going to start everything all at once. How are we going to measure success? So that really is sort of the blueprint to help you implement this strategy. But as I said, we are at still in the research phase, kind of closing up the research phase. We're working with a steering committee of local public and private leaders, about 16 to 17 folks that really represent a diversity of voices across the community. We work with a core team of local leaders, including Melissa, including Ryan and Jeff Schuler from the county, and a couple other folks from the private sector to really kind of talk about how can we make this process as inclusive as possible. As I mentioned, we are jumping on a moving train here. We are trying to leverage all the work that's been done, all the research that's been done, planning strategies. We don't want to reinvent any research. We don't want to recommend a project that has already been spoken about or potentially in some phase of activity. So we have really been conscientious about trying to make sure that we are aware of all the work that's been done to study and to think about strategically how Stevens Point can move forward. In the research, in the quantitative research, we compared you to 3 communities. It's really to provide perspective on how Stevens Point's economy and its population has been progressing in the last 10 to 20 years, really kind of get some identification of trends versus these other places that in some cases are aspirational, in other cases are more just pure communities. They all have regional campuses of universities. So this really just informs the research. It's not that every strategy is going to be taken from one of these communities. It really is just to provide some perspective. But when we get to the strategic plan, we really sort of open it up to the entire country to look at communities that are advancing strategies that either address challenges or opportunities that Stevens Point is facing based on what the community has told us. So these were the kind of narratives that emerged from the research. 7 key trends and issues that when you look at what people said and what the numbers told you kind of emerged as some trends that we think were worth discussing with the steering committee. There really seems to be this core kind of tension between Stevens Point really being a community that can hang its hat on sustainability, the College of Natural Resources, the environmental amenities and assets that you have, but also that desire of the community, as I'm sure you're well aware as alderpersons, to have more stuff, more activities, more retail, more restaurants, maybe even more housing, maybe even on the river. We looked at talent. We looked at both kind of the pipeline, the K-20 pipeline, but also migration, people coming here, people leaving the community. There does seem to be kind of a challenge with both retention and attraction of folks. When you look at the data, Stevens Point is losing population, and especially in terms of domestic migration. So there are more people leaving Stevens Point for other communities in the US than are coming here. Portage County is growing just a little bit, but still is facing some of these challenges. And we talked to a number of employers who said that housing is a key component of this, that when their employees, their younger employees reach that point where they're looking to maybe buy a home, that some of those challenges might be so hard to overcome that they might have to look outside the community. So housing was another kind of theme that we looked at. There does seem to be this sort of disconnect between demand and supply. Talked to a lot of folks that are either in that world or can speak to it and try to get some real specific perspectives on what some of the challenges are, what some of the attempts have been to address them. We looked at wealth and poverty trends, which are certainly an issue in Stevens Point. When, again, you look at these comparison areas, it's pretty equivalent to the poverty rates in these other communities. So while it's an issue in Stevens Point, you're not necessarily an outlier in terms of these wealth and poverty trends. We looked at diversity, and that was a key theme in the process, and you'll see when we show you a slide in just a second, that it's a community that really kind of embraces its diversity or wants to. And when you look at the numbers, you are more diverse in terms of percentages than those peer communities we looked at. But we wanted to get a sense for you're diversifying, but are you a community that's inclusive, that's welcoming? So we had a focus group with individuals that kind of spoke to that diversity and inclusion perspective. And there really are some continuing challenges in terms of being a community that people of color or marginalized communities feel safe in, feel comfortable. You have a very stable, a diverse, growing economy. That's really kind of a strength of yours. When you look at the different concentrations of industries, you've got some good concentrations in some pretty high-paying sectors like manufacturing, like finance and insurance. When you look at trends post-COVID, you're one of the top third highest performing counties in the state after the pandemic. So, you've got this stability through government, through the university, through other employers that really kind of help you weather some of those economic downturns that you see in the broader community. And then we looked specifically at entrepreneurship. Looking at the data, you're a little bit more underdeveloped than some of the other places we looked at, but talked to a lot of people who said that there are some amenities, some resources that are building in, what you call the ecosystem of entrepreneurship. And especially as it relates to food and some of these natural resources startups, you kind of have a growing opportunity of these firms. And so we'll think about what are the best ways to maybe take advantage of that. One of the charges that we have in this process is to kind of identify a vision statement for the city. And so through the online survey, we asked, what are 3 words or phrases that you'd like to see used to describe Stevens Point in 2030? And these were the more often a word was used, the larger it appears on the screen. And so you see that of the 1,400 or so folks that responded, there really is a desire to be a diverse, progressive, inclusive community, innovative, family-friendly, welcoming, vibrant. So that's going to inform, the vision statement that we talk about with our steering committee, but also we think that all the projects that emerge from this process really are going to need to be seen through a filter of diversity, inclusion, and sort of that community that embraces different voices and perspectives. the way that we're sort of moving from the research phase to the strategic phase is to really kind of narrow down. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm the host. I got to admit this poor person who's been waiting in the waiting room. I'm sorry. Sorry there, sir. So we've kind of identified some categories that emerged from this research, and we're focusing on some transformational projects that might emerge from these categories. So probably not a big surprise to people who know the city that these are the categories that people really focused on as either having some challenges or opportunities that really deserve attention. But the next phase is really kind of working with our steering committee and our core team to identify projects that we can really focus on to move Stevens Point forward. It's not going to be a 200-page plan. We're not going to have 50 projects. We're going to have a handful that we really think are achievable, attainable, and will really have that highest impact to kind of move you towards that vision that the community has spoken to. I will admit another person since I'm the host. This is our time frame in terms of our work with the steering committee. So we had sort of an introductory process, and then we presented the community assessment, and later next month, sort of mid next month, we're going to talk about those projects. The first time that we're going to talk about what those priorities might be that we are going to advance through the process. And then really the entire remainder of the planning process will be about building out project plans for these priorities. And in some cases, we hope to identify some resources, some action steps that can help you begin the implementation of these projects, even while we're still working with the steering committee to finalize some of the details. And then the last phase, as I mentioned, is going to be that blueprint, that timeline, really that roadmap that you'll be able to use to implement these projects that have emerged. So with that, I am going to open it up for any questions. I guess, Mayor, from the alderpersons or from the audience that we might have, and I'm going to stop my share.
Sure, Alex, and thank you for that. As I said before, Alex, normally we don't allow question and answers, but this is important. So we are going to start with any alderpersons who have questions or comments for Alex or his team.
And I will say that we are going to, once our steering committee approves this report, we're going to post it on a website for everyone to be able to dive in and read through the findings and look at the data. So it will be shared with the public as soon as our steering committee gives us the go-ahead.
Great. So again, President Johnson.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment, and I want my colleagues on council and the mayor and all people listening. The work that Alchemy has been doing is really quite wonderful. The involvement of the community, 1,400 participants on a survey. I was hoping for 500, and so I'm very pleased. And the way we built our interview teams, the people we recommended, and the idea of trying to get all sectors, those people who have lived in Stevens Point for a long time, those folks who are new, those folks who come from diverse backgrounds and marginalized communities, blue collar, white collar. I mean, Alchemy really forced us, the core team, which is me, Jeff Schuler from Portage County, and kudos to Portage County for allowing Jeff to really be a part of the team. I've appreciated his leadership. Ryan, of course, has been amazing. Leah Sirwanka has just been a great part of this, but really forced us and pushed us to think about how do we include everybody in the community, and that was our goal. I'm hoping that we included as many kind of concepts as possible. It may not be perfect, so for those people listening, if you have more ideas, we're always open to it. So, but it's been a great process, and it's really tried to be inclusive, which is what, in my mind, Stevens Point is about.
Thank you. Any other alders? Okay, I don't see anyone, so then I will move it out to the general public. Anyone from the general public with comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Alex, first of all, thank you and your team for doing this. Thank you for the time. We want to remind everyone who's listening or maybe watching at a later date that the timeline is available on the PowerPoint. I think we can get that PowerPoint posted on our website, right, Alex?
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
you
you
have
will
it,
see
so
the
yeah.
dates. And comments are always welcome. As President Johnson said, we want to make sure as many people who want to get involved have the ability to get involved, because that's really what our community is about, is all of the great people trying to make things even better. So we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity. If you weren't able to participate in that survey, by all means, contact us. You can contact my office. You can contact Ryan Kanowski's office over at Economic Development. Someone here at City Hall will get you to the right people. And we look forward to seeing anyone and everyone at these virtual presentations as well. So thank you very much, Alex, and thank you, everyone on the Alchemy team.
Thank you,
You can
Mayor.
stick around if you're a glutton for punishment.
Well, I have a couple kids who are very hungry. So
Get them to watch the meeting. That'll put them to sleep.
Well, maybe that's going to be a good backup plan then. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you
Thanks,
again.
Alex.
All right, members of the council, we'll move on to the agenda. And the first one is on page 5, and that is our consent agenda. First of all, is there anyone who wishes to pull anything for the consent agenda for further discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion on the consent agenda. President Johnson.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank
I
you.
second. Alder Morrow.
Seconded by Alderperson Morrow. Any discussion on anything in the consent agenda? Seeing none, alderpersons, when your name is called, please unmute yourself and vote yes or no. Clerk Yenter, if I was going to do this right at the beginning, but before we call the roll on this, I want to make sure everyone knows that Carrie Yenter, who was in the clerk's office for a long time, I was over 20 years in the clerk's office, much more than that as a city employee. We appointed Carrie our new interim clerk. She will fill the unexpired term of Clerk Krautkramer, who was filling the unexpired term of Clerk Petrusky through the April 30th date. So Carrie, congratulations on the appointment. And as one of your first, so I guess it's your second duty now as city clerk at a meeting, would you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you. Jennings,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
11
Looks like
ayes.
11-0.
Yes.
Consent agenda is approved. Before we go any further, I think all of the alderpersons were made aware of it, but for the general public, item number 20 and 21, which is a closed session, that has been removed from our agenda. So we will not be having that closed session, and therefore we won't be reconvening an open session for possible action. Director Karnowski was working with the developer, and they felt that the timing wasn't right, so we pulled that. All right, moving on. Agenda item 7 begins on page 38 of your packet, Alders. That's a resolution for a conditional use permit at 1417 Church Street to allow more than one principal structure and use on one parcel. Director, do you have anything to add?
I do not. The Plan Commission reviewed this earlier this month and has recommended approval with the 3 conditions outlined. I believe most of the alders were present at the Plan Commission meeting, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions that the body may have.
Are there any comments on the resolution or questions for the director? Alder Jennings.
Yes, I'll just, excuse me, repeat what I stated at Plan Commission. This applicant has a history. The history of this applicant, excuse me, is one of foreclosures and not paying taxes. I see no evidence that the applicant will follow through with the requirements being made by the building inspector. And so I remain concerned about this conditional use permit.
Thank you. Director, just for clarification, if the conditions of the permit are not met, the use is not allowed. Is that correct?
That's correct. At that point, we would provide a notice of non-compliance to the property owner, and then he would have X number of days, typically 30 to 60 days, to come into compliance. Failure to do that, we would revoke the permit and then enforce the use being removed from the property. In this case, we would say, utilizing the former church property as a residential use would no longer be permitted, and we would follow that process itself. So,
thank you. Comments, questions, or if you wish, alderpersons, a motion. Alder Nabel.
I would like to make a motion to approve this with those conditions for the conditional use permit.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Zarazua. Discussion. President Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if my dogs start barking, I apologize because someone just pulled up. For the reasons that Alder Jennings stated, I'll be voting against this. There are a number of properties that are in a state of disrepair with this same property owner, and I have some serious concerns. So just underscoring my no vote on this.
Thank you. All right, seeing no one else wishing to speak, if you are in favor of the motion, you will vote yes. If you are opposed, you will vote no. And I will ask Clerk Yenter to call the roll.
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Leek,
Nay.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
No.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
No.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings.
No.
Seven ayes, 4 nays.
7-4, the resolution is adopted. Item number 8 is on page 39 of your packets, and that's a request from the City of Stevens Point to sell 1116, 1124, and 1128 Main Street, also known as the Fox Theater. Director Karnowski, anything to add?
nothing additional to add other than there are 2 approvals tonight. The one before you now is for the actual Fox Theater property. The next item on the agenda is for the Redevelopment Authority's property, which is just north of this specific one. You can see in both memos, we've outlined what is a preliminary certified survey map that will be recorded before we sell the property. So there will be 2 approvals. They're practically the same, but it's just because we have 2 specific properties, we have to have 2 specific action items.
Okay, and I want to point out too that both of these items went through the Plan Commission and received a favorable recommendation. President Johnson.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Seconded by, we'll give it to Fischler. I saw that hand first. Second by Fischler. Discussion? Hearing none. Clerk Yenter, would you please call the roll?
Jennings,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow,
Aye.
11 A's.
11 unanimously approved. Thank you. Item number 9 is on page 41 of your packet, and that's a request from the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Stevens Point to sell a portion of RA-owned property adjacent to Municipal Lot 16. As Director Karnowski talked about, this was actually part of the original Fox Theater, I guess effectively going back to that one parcel. Comments or a motion?
Alder Kneebone here. I would move to approve.
Thank you. Do
This
we
is
have a
Alder
second?
Slowinski.
Okay, I saw Cindy Nable's hand, so I'm going to give the second to Alder Nable. Any discussion there? Hearing and seeing none. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Dalton. Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
11 A's.
Wonderful. That is unanimously approved as well. Item number 11 is on page 44 of your packet, and that's a license and use agreement between the City of Stevens Point and Century Insurance for the installation of a loading and handicap accessible ramp for the property located at 1105 Main Street, with said improvements within municipal parking lot 12. Director, anything to add here?
Mayor, you skipped item number 10.
You skipped number 10.
I apologize. Sorry. Too quick with that. I'm sorry. Let's go back to item number 10, page 43. It's the glasses thing. I need them on to see there, and I need them off to see here. I got to get bifocals, apparently. I'm getting old. All right. Item number 10 is a request from the City of Stevens Point for a public utility easement for the installation and maintenance of a stormwater infrastructure located in Lot 1 of an unrecorded certified survey map adjacent to 1116, 1124, and 1128 Main Street. This is a stormwater utility that's going to be going behind what was the Fox Theater. Now, Director, anything to add on that one?
Nothing specific. You can kind of see the preliminary layout of that area behind what is soon to be the Andres Beer Garden and Event Space. There is a proposed stormwater pipe that is going to be new. That's on the, I'll call the west side of the property. It's going to cross over the existing easement, or the proposed easement, and then it's going to connect into an existing stormwater pipe to be disposed of downriver, downstream. So again, as part of the process itself, the City Council has to approve any easements that are granted. We're essentially going to grant ourselves an easement before we sell the property so that we have this in place. Developer has no issues with it, and in fact is likely going to tie into it for some of their own stormwater management.
Okay, we have Alder Slowinski making a motion to approve that. He did that through chat. So I just wanted to be clear on that. Alder Slowinski has a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Morrow. Discussion. Hearing none. Clerk, would you please call that roll?
Jennings,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Dalton,
Dalton. Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
11 A's.
11-0. That request is approved. Now on to item number 11, page 44 of your packet, Alders. The license and use agreement between the City of Stevens Point and Century Insurance for the installation of a loading and handicap accessible ramp for the property located at 1105 Main Street, with said improvements being within municipal parking lot 12. Director.
I do apologize. This typically would go before a committee. However, by the time we had gotten through this with Century Insurance and their timeline for construction, we had to bump this straight to council. So I do apologize for that. But essentially, this is nothing different than what we've done in the past for other uses. Think about Goose, Penguin Properties, that have utilized city-owned properties for access to their property. This is just a license and use agreement for the installation of a ramp. Fairly straightforward, nothing terribly out of the ordinary. This is just behind their existing downtown area at 1105 Main Street. The Visitor Bureau, which is relocating to Unit A, will be utilizing it, and then also Unit B, which is still a part of the Century Co-op, would utilize it for ADA accessibility, and then also for loading and unloading. So would recommend approval as presented.
Thank you. Alder Jennings.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Seconded by Nabel. Discussion? Hearing and seeing none. If you're in favor, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no. And Clerk Yenter can call the roll.
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Slawinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings,
Aye.
11 ayes.
11-0. That agreement is approved. On page 56, you'll find item number 12, and that's a request from Wisconsin Public Service Corporation for an easement to install a utility pole in the northeast corner of municipal lot number 7. This had gone through Plan Commission. I think almost everybody was there from the council. Director, anything to add?
Nope. Other than this is the least intrusive option that city staff had to wrangle with public service on. So they understand. They understand that why we went through the specific route. They are going to try to work to retain the tree as much as possible. But again, staff's recommendation and Plan Commission is approval as presented.
Thank you. Alder Jennings.
I did have a question that I didn't ask at Plan Commission. The city really should be moving towards burying any lines whenever possible. So I was wondering why burying the lines didn't happen in this case, because here we all are installing a pole with lines.
The pole is actually the termination point, and so the utilities will go underground across 3rd Street to and then actually through the school district's parking lot to the Berkshire Senior Housing Project. There is some overhead utilities west of here, and that's what they're going to be connecting it into. There was another option where they had proposed to bury utilities from Water Street north along 3rd Street to the Berkshire project, but that would have required a 10-foot utility easement along the west side of the right-of-way of 3rd Street, and staff trying to think kind of proactively down the road. We did not want to have a 10-foot utility easement adjacent to a right-of-way, and according to Wisconsin Public Service, it was cost prohibitive to put the utilities within the right-of-way itself. So this, like I said, the pole is the termination point for the overhead wires. They will go underground at that point across 3rd Street to Berkshire. I generally agree. Undergrounded utilities are a much better option, also a much more expensive option.
Thank you. Comments, questions, or a motion?
This is Alder Slawinski.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to need to abstain from this vote due to the fact that I'm employed by this entity.
Thank you very much. We will note that. Clerk, please note that Alder Slawinski will be abstaining. Any other comments? President Johnson.
No comment, just a motion to approve the easement.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Seconded by Morrow. Discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Clerk Yenter, please call the roll.
Jennings,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slawinski abstained. Kneebone,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Dalton,
Dalton. Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
10 ayes, 1 abstain.
10-0-1. The motion is adopted. Item number 13 begins on page 57 of your packets, Alders, and that is the awarding of the bid for cooling tower repair and replacement at 1466 Water Street to Point Heating and Cooling. Director Konoski.
So as the council may recall, we were having some cooling tower issues. It's part of the HVAC system. I'm not an HVAC professional. I don't know exactly what's going on, but my understanding is that our cooling tower has failed completely. In the interim, we've been operating and pushing city water through that cooling tower, which is very expensive. You're about 4 gallons a minute, is my understanding. So we need to get it replaced, essentially. Point Heating, we put bids out via the Class 2 process. Point Heating and Cooling came back with an alternative bid of $13,692. And that would be to replace the existing cooling tower with a different type of plate and frame heat exchanger, where it takes heat that's generated or cooled. I'm not 100% sure how it works, but essentially our inspector believes that it will work just fine. We also received a second quote from Badger Heating and Air Conditioning, which was significantly higher, about $54,000, with an alternative bid of replacing the entire system with essentially wall-mounted units. That was about $111,000. So again, with conversations between the building inspection department, Candlewood Property Management, we believe that the Point Heating and Cooling bid should be sufficient to repair and replace the existing failed tower. Would recommend approval with Point Heating and Cooling.
Thank you. So we'd be looking for a motion to approve the bid of $13,692 to Point Heating and Cooling. Alder Nabel.
Yes, I would like to approve that bid.
We have a motion to approve that bid from Alder Nabel. Is there a second?
I second Alder Morrow.
Seconded by Alderperson Morrow. Any discussion?
This is Alder Slawinski.
Yes, sir.
So I guess just for the record, where's this money coming from? Is there the revenue stream from the rental of this property, or?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, the property is a cash generator for the city, and there's a separate account for 1466 Water Street. It would be coming out of that specific account.
All right, thanks.
Any other comments? Hearing and seeing no one. If you're in favor, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no, and the clerk will call the roll.
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Slawinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
11-0, that is approved. Item number 14 is on page 61 of your packets, and that is a public hearing for the Stevens Point Municipal Airport petition to the State Secretary of Transportation for airport improvement aid. Director Lemke, do you have anything to add here?
Not really. This is a routine item, comes every about 5 years. We need to do this in order to basically spend the dollars that we get through state and federal resources. So several of you may recall this from the past, and it might appear that we've done this recently because we actually noticed it a couple times and then forgot to put it on the agenda the right way. So we're kind of dotting our I's and crossing our T's on this one. It's a bit of a repeat.
Okay. Questions, comments, or a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, we got to do the public hearing. Any clarifying questions for the director before I open the public hearing? Okay, with that, I declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to offer testimony on this item, please unmute yourself. State your name for the record, please. Public hearing is still open. For the third time, the public hearing remains open. Seeing and hearing no one else wishing to speak, I will declare the public hearing closed. And now we can move on to item number 15, which is the resolution on that municipal airport petition to the State Secretary of Transportation for airport improvement aid. Alderperson.
Mr. Morrow, this is a motion to approve, please.
Thank you. Motion by Morrow. Is there a second? Seconded by Kneebone.
Kneebone.
Discussion. Seeing and hearing no discussion. If you're in favor, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no. And Clerk Yenter, please call the roll.
Jennings,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slawinski,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Leak,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
Sounds like it was unanimously approved. Item number 16 is on page 64 of your packet, and that's the final resolution for utility installations on East Maria Drive. Joel, do you want to speak on this?
Sure. So basically, the preliminary resolution would have been in September, well, the same council meeting last year. This covers the extension of sanitary sewer main and the installation of sanitary sewer laterals to the two properties listed at 3313 and 3319 East Maria. At the time we put it in, it was one parcel. It's since been split. So the final resolution comes following the knowledge of the final costs. This one came a little later than that, admittedly, yet the costs for those improvements are there. We are not having a public hearing because often is the case when there's one or two property owners involved, they waive the public hearing requirement.
Thank you. Alder Slawinski, did you have a comment?
No, I was just moving.
Oh, okay. I saw the hand up. So Alder Leak.
Yeah, I heard from this constituent, and there seemed to be some unclarity about the invoice and the total cost. And I was wondering if I could ask about that, Director Lemke, about that, something about the itemized invoice and whether this was, you know, I looked a little bit at some documents about this, that the final bill came in significantly higher than the original estimate, and there was some, the constituent is asking for more details on the final price, the final cost or assessment.
Right. And Alder, that constituent is actually on here. I know Director Lemke has been working with them.
Mm-hmm.
There have been some emails back and forth. Director Lemke, do you want to field that question?
Sure, yeah. So there are a number of things here that make this a little bit hard to follow. One of them is that on a preliminary and a final resolution and stuff like this, we're typically dealing with projects where the city's running improvements through that haven't been there before, and it's decided they're needed, and there isn't an invoice to go along with it, so to speak, with those kind of details. It's not like that. It's we levy an assessment against a property. There are cases like this that are few and far between, and that might speak to a little bit of the lack of polish when it comes to taking them through where the utilities are requested. We did work through that. I think that where we came on our closest estimates was a little over 21,000 for one component and a little over 29,000 for the other component, which takes you to about 51,000. Did our best to reiterate the fact that these are estimates, and actually the improvements as a whole need to be accounted for in the assessment. So there, you know, we were just under the final assessment. So it got handled through a number of things. One, and the documents are out now. They just went out earlier this evening, so it's kind of late, but there's a number of ways they got billed. So we had a contractor at the time working on the North Side project that agreed to issue a change order for a component of it, of the work we needed done, and then handled some of the items through our bid quantities. Those two things combined with the bill from American Asphalt is what totals the amount that was billed. And I've got all the information here in front of me if I can clarify that at all.
Okay, Alder Leek, anything? I know that's going to be sent over to the constituent that you're talking about too.
Okay, maybe I'd like to, I think I'd like to maybe table the motion then to, you know, clarify so that the constituent has time to look at these documents. And maybe I can, you know, have a look at this as well if there's some concerns about it.
I think that, and maybe the constituent can speak up, but I think it was in her interest that this get finalized soon because of a closing. So, and you know, the reality is that the number on the final assessment isn't going to change because we levy the entire dollar amount that's due. So, I mean, we did miss slightly on the estimate what it would cost, but you know, one of the members of my utility staff and I tried to explain, hey, we're not in control of all these costs. The more we can narrow up the road reconstruction, we will. And if we can't, we can't. And there were a small amount of unexpected things that happened. So the total cost is what's reiterated there, not a penny more. You know, we're not building in anything, you know.
Right. So, and Alder Leek, I believe what your intention is, if I read it correctly, is to postpone action.
Yes.
Tabling a motion actually effectively kills it.
Okay, yeah, postpone it, yes.
I
That's what
see
meant.
Chris Malik is on here. Chris, did you want to comment on how this would affect you if we postpone action on this for another month? Can you unmute yourself if you wish to speak? Okay, I got a message in the chat to everyone that says, I support moving forward from the property owner. Okay, so hopefully that clears things up a little bit.
I do want to apologize for the lag. There was a little bit of internal miscommunication on closing of this whole thing, so this should have come a few months ago. So that is something that staff here should take responsibility for.
Thank you, Director. I also should note that she did continue with, but I'm disappointed in the process. With that, Alderperson Nabel.
Yes, I just have a question. What was the difference then in cost?
Joel, you got your calculator?
Or what was the cost?
Well, the total cost is just shy of $56,000. Let me go up on this document here. Sorry, $55,986. We had a utility estimation and a asphalt estimation prior to that, like I said, were 21,000 and change and 29,000 and change, and that gets you, to about $51,000. So there was a slight difference there in the 10% area.
And then the next question would be, is if we're only doing one part of that building and not the second section of it, are we still going to go ahead with this instead of doing like just the one section for 21?
No, this construction is complete. It was complete last year. This just represents all of the costs associated with the utility extension.
Okay. So whether we had one or two, it didn't make a difference.
No, because the preliminary resolution went through as one parcel, and if that had stayed one parcel, we'd be assessing $55,986.48 to one parcel. And in this document, because it's been split and the benefit to the properties is equal, the assessment's split right down the middle. And I believe that's Ms. Malik's desire also.
Okay, Alder Nabel, we didn't catch anything you said. It looked like you were saying something, but you were still on mute.
Thank you for the clarification.
Gotcha.
Appreciate it.
Alderpersons, what are your wishes?
I will move approval.
Thank you. We have a motion by Slawinski to approve the final resolution. Do we have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Morrow. Further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Dalton. Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Slawinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
Unanimous consent. That final resolution is adopted. Item number 17 was, I believe, emailed to the alderpersons as we just had the bid opening last Friday, and that is the 2020 East Park Commerce Center project. The recommendation, and correct me if I'm wrong, Director Badoon, is to Haas and Sons for $1,017,625.70, which is a very favorable bid in this case. Director Badoon, comments?
And that's correct. That was their bid with contingency. We'd be looking at a total of $1,170,269.56. Need to make sure we get every penny. Yes, that is still very favorable. Engineer's estimate was $1.25 million. Haas has been doing the two projects, big projects in town this year. We're very happy with the work they've been doing, so we're actually excited to see that they were the low bidder in this case.
Excellent. Alderpersons, what are your wishes? President Johnson.
Well, other than I expect them to take up residence soon, because I've seen Haas trucks all over the place in town, and they're from Thorpe, so we welcome them to Stevens Point. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Seconded by Fischler. Discussion. Alder Leek.
Yeah, I just had I mean, I guess I assume we feel that this is not only a favorable bid, but that they can actually do this at that cost.
That is correct.
Okay, that's fine. Just wanted to check that.
Any other comments? Alder Jennings.
I'm just wondering if the director could talk a little bit about the road that's going beyond the business itself. This sounds like roadway being created for future construction. Is that correct?
That is. Director?
Yeah, I mean, the roadway is just going to go along the frontage that Lineage has or is occupying and then terminating at the end there. We're not taking it farther than that, but you know, the intent, of course, and the reason to build the road is not just to serve Lineage at this time, you know, but is already being considered as far as, you know, as the Commerce Park grows and expands, you know, what are the needs potentially going to be? So we're trying to incorporate as much of that as we others know at this time. You know, as well, same thing with the utilities to make sure that they're properly sized for the Commerce Center as it grows. Part of this is going to be just a little bit of a branch of that for the future expansion for Badger Avenue, which would be what we propose will be the major north-south road, which we've seen plans kind of before when we were looking at utility work for when OSOS was coming about for those that were around at the time. So it'll go beyond where Badger Road will exist, but basically the extent of what we're doing right now just covers that frontage for Lineage, which if there's any future expansions or anything beyond them, you know, we'd be ready for that to happen with this work.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Alderperson?
Yes, that it portends future growth in that area. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I know Director Konoski and a couple of others are working very hard on that. All right. What are your wishes? We have a motion already, correct?
Yes, we do.
Thank you, Clerk. The motion is to approve the bid to Haas Sons, and I don't see anyone else wishing to speak. We have multiple pages, so I apologize. I take a little bit longer than normal. All right, Clerk, would you please call the roll? If you're in favor, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no.
Jennings,
No.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
No.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
9 ayes, 2 nays.
9-2, the motion is approved. Item number 18 is on page 66 of your packet, and that is an ordinance amendment regarding section 9.05 as it relates to parking. Director Badun, anything to add here?
Just I would say that these are just a couple of cleanups that we had to do. One of them was our own mistake from the last time we brought these forward. So just a couple minor things.
That happens. Those, if you look at the parking ordinances, there's an awful lot in there, and none of it is very readable because it's all very technical. All right, alderpersons, what are your wishes?
Alder Kneebone, I would move approval.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded, we'll give the second to Shore. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none, clerk, would you please call a roll?
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
Okay, 11-0, that is approved. Item number 19 is on page 68 of your packet, and that is an ordinance amendment to sections 9.05 and 9.12 as it relates to the designation of bike lanes and associated parking. Alder Slowinski, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I guess as I stated in the beginning of the meeting tonight in the open agenda item, I don't know if this pertains to this, but I mean it is section 9.12 of our ordinance, and again I guess I'm looking to maybe revisit this again, clean up some other areas, not only adding these bike lanes and to the 9.12. So I guess I would like to move to send this back and have this, I guess, reviewed and revised even further based on my concerns earlier.
Okay,
and that's all I have. Thanks.
There is a motion to send back, I assume, to staff, Alder?
Correct. And then, like I had stated, if it takes that we have kind of a put a little subcommittee together to review it, involving PD and the bike and ped and Corey's group and yourself. And again, I'd be more than happy to be involved if needed.
Okay, we have a motion to send back to staff. Is there a second to that motion? For lack of a second, the motion fails. Now, I saw some other hands shoot up. We'll give it to President Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just before I make my motion to approve, I appreciate Alder Slowinski's concern about wanting to have appropriate education for folks as we transition to a more multimodal community. So I think that comment is well taken, and I appreciate that. However, I think staff put a lot of work into this already, so I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Thank you. And Alder Jennings, I assume that's a second?
Yes, and I have a comment.
As the second, to go ahead and make some comments.
Yes, I would just like to follow up with, we do have a Bike Ped Street Safety Commission, and I would recommend to Alder Slowinski that he bring his concerns to that meeting rather than adding a layer of government.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? President Johnson, I saw a quick hand.
Yeah, it was fast.
He's watching.
Your glasses worked. Good job. I was checking.
They work
was like
that
a
way. They
vision.
don't work this way.
That was a vision test.
Okay. Any other? Oh, you do have comments.
It is. I
Right.
do have something, and I think folks know I love to bicycle, and I take seriously the rules of the road as I do when I'm behind the wheel of a car. I do not like it either when I see cyclists or people in cars violating the rules of the road. And I was on my bike and almost got slammed on the corner of East and Jefferson. I was stopped making a left-hand turn onto Jefferson, and well, someone in a nice big pickup truck decided to blow the stop sign. So I think, again, we want people to be safe on the road. There's no question. And I think the Bike and Ped Safety Commission can help us with that, help us all understand what to do and what not to do. But when you're on bicycle, you are a vehicle on the road, and law enforcement can ticket you for blowing a stop sign, just like I can be ticketed when I'm in my vehicle. So it's a good reminder to everybody.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I like to comment.
Alder Slawinski.
I will not be supporting this to approve this ordinance amendment just for the fact that I guess I just don't understand why we can't relook at this. It was just stated that there was a lot of time put into this. I do not see any changes made to any of the forfeitures or any of the penalties if someone breaks the rules and the laws on a bicycle. So I am not really too clear on how much work was put into this. I'm not seeing anything other than the addition of some bike lanes. And also, I would much rather not have the bike and ped group basically take this on fully. I would definitely like their input, but I feel that there's a little bias there. And if we basically just allow them to bring their perspective to it, I think it'll be a slanted decision. Again, I'm more than happy to bring them to the table and bring, different entities to the table. Law enforcement. I had a brief conversation with the chief, and he basically is saying that he agrees. He's seeing, close calls. People on these bikes are blowing stop signs and not using their hand signals and not yielding to pedestrians, and he would like something done. So it's very unfortunate that these bikes are on the road now. They need to follow the rules of the road, just like cars do. I don't know, some of my fellow alders, I don't know if they're thinking that the bicycling group should be held to a different standard.
No.
They're on the road. They should be following the rules, and if they don't follow the rules, there's got to be consequences.
Absolutely.
So I guess that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Alder Slawinski. So we've got a string of comments here. So I just muted you, Alder or President Johnson, just so we could have Alder Slawinski have the floor. I do want to make a comment, though, Alder Slawinski. If you're looking at changing penalties for bicyclists violating ordinances, that's not germane to this topic. So I would ask that you can contact the city attorney or chief center or the Bicycle Pedestrian Street Safety Commission and offer your suggestions. And if there's ordinance changes in the future, we'll take a look at those. So I know President Johnson and Alder Leek want to speak, but I'm going to defer to the city attorney, who messaged that he has some comments in this regard. So Attorney Beveridge.
Alder Slawinski's suggestion is meant to say we should have a different penalty structure for bicyclists than for other users of the road. That's not legal. We can't do that any more than we could say we're going to have higher fines for Chevy Suburbans than we are for Mazda Miatas. Different users of the road all have to follow the same rules. That's correct. But that also means they're also responsible for the same penalties if they violate the law. I made a comment to this extent at a recent meeting, which is also that if people are demanding to the T strict enforcement of traffic laws for bicyclists, I want everyone to hear and know this right now. We do not have strict to the T enforcement of traffic laws for cars. I've been prosecuting traffic laws in the municipal court for 7.5 years now. And when it comes to speeding, the tickets I see are almost all at least 10 over the limit. Every now and then I'll see a drunk driving stop where part of the reason for the stop is that somebody took a turn and didn't go into the nearest lane on a 4-lane road. I have never seen a stop that was just based on that, where somebody was issued a ticket just for that. People make those kind of turns all the time. People roll stop signs. They slow down to 1, 2, 3 miles an hour. Very, very frequently, if an officer sees that, as long as it wasn't blatant or just really rolling through at a brisk speed, there's not likely to be a stop for that. Or if there is, it's going to be a warning, most likely. So the idea that we need to have very, very strict to the letter enforcement for bicyclists, I would just say, if we want to do that, we should do it for everyone. But my guess is the same people who are contacting you, Alder Slawinski, talking about bicyclists, if they started having their own vehicle driving enforced to that level of strictness, they'd probably be even more unhappy with you.
Thank you, Attorney Beveridge. Let's go to Alder Leek, then Alder Nabel, then back to President Johnson.
Yeah, as far as the Bike Ped Commission is concerned, I'd just like to point out it's an open commission. Anyone can come up and influence, as it were, if you want to call that a bias, whatever, but influence the commission by speaking up and taking part in the meeting. I don't feel that it is a biased group in that sense. We are listening to the information put in front of us and making decisions on that basis. Thanks.
Thank you, Alder Leek, who is the council representative on that commission. They are all open to the public. The agendas are posted on our city website and our usual places. Let's go to Alder Nabel, then back to President Johnson, and then Alder Slawinski. You have to unmute yourself, Alder Nabel.
I made it through all the way until now. Sorry about that. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to say that it's so interesting because we already have laws. So there are already laws against bikes blowing through a stop sign, not riding correctly. It's going the wrong direction, just like a car. And so there's not something new that has to be made here. It just has to be a decision made through our police department or the city to start saying that we want these things equally recognized. My husband got a ticket for stopping, but now I guess it wasn't completely enough. It was years ago, but he had a sports car, so he got nailed and it went to court. And he even had his mechanic there to say he had to stop because his car isn't shifting wise, would not start unless it went back to from park to first, because that was the type of car he had. But he still got a ticket. So they used to do more of that. But again, it's up to if we're really going to ask our police force to start enforcing that. I think the laws are there. So we're not having to change anything by saying, let's not approve this. They're there. It's not the Bike Ped's decision on if there's a law or not. It is a state law. So I just wanted to put that in there.
Thank you. President Johnson.
Thanks. Attorney Beveridge got to my point, and I just wanted to mention that law enforcement is reminding us who are on bicycles, and when we roll through a stop sign, I'm speaking from some personal experience recently, officer reminding me that I need to stop. So enforcement is there. We need to follow the rules of the road. I want people to be safe, both on cars, pedestrians, and on bicycles. We owe it to each other. So I think this is, even though this may not be what Alder Slawinski wants, I do appreciate the fact that he's bringing attention to the fact that we do, if you're on a bicycle, follow the rules. Don't make the rest of us look bad. You could hurt somebody you could get killed. This is an important discussion.
Thank you. Alder Slawinski.
And again, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel or anything. I know that there's, I mean, I've combed through the ordinance. I mean, I think it's a $20 fine if somebody breaks one of the laws listed or the rules listed. That's all I'm looking for, is just put a little more teeth on this. I mean, I've had so many people, bicyclists, we're not talking coming to a rolling stop. We're talking blowing through the intersection. And then you slow down and you say, hey, you were supposed to stop there, and you get the old number 1 sign or there's words said to you, and it's like, they're so disrespectful. Not all of them. It's only a few. But again, if they're going to be sharing the road, I feel that there needs to be similar. I mean, they should be treated the same as a car. I'm not saying to do anything new. Let's just review what we have, clean it up, bring it up to date, and that's all I'm asking. But apparently, I mean, I'm the odd man out here, so thank you.
Thank you, Alder Slawinski. And I wouldn't say you're the odd man out, because I think we've heard, I'm seeing head shaking now, that I think some of the alders agree with you. I certainly agree with you that we all need to be held to the same standards. But I also want to remind people that it's not every bicyclist. It is some, just like it's not every motorist or every motorcycle driver or every skateboarder. It's a few people who seem to be very obvious, and those are the ones that stick in people's minds. So they generically and generally just say it's all bicyclists do this or don't do this. I think we have some very responsible drivers. We have some very responsible bicyclists. We have some very responsible motorcycle operators, skateboarders, etc. So it is a small group, and I think we could do some better enforcement, and I will leave that up to Chief Zenner. But Andrew Beveridge apparently had done some research while we were chatting, and he'd like to make some additional comments in regards to the fine amounts or forfeitures. Attorney Beveridge.
Yeah, what Alder Slawinski mentioned about seeing a $20 fine or any of those very small looking, admittedly, round numbers that you frequently see listed in statutes or ordinances. That's actually what is called the deposit amount. And the total amount of a forfeiture that somebody pays would be if you take that small amount and add in the court fees, the surcharges, the penalty surcharge, jail surcharge, crime lab, et cetera. So for instance, a $20 deposit amount actually ends up being a forfeiture of $86.20. The typical one you see for traffic offenses for a low category moving violation, it ends up being $98.80. However, that's based on a deposit amount of $30. So for instance, $98.80, that's your basic low category speeding ticket, running a stop sign, that type of thing. If you look at, for instance, the OWI laws, a first offense OWI, the number in the statute says $150 to $300 fine, which I think would shock everyone's conscience if that was the actual penalty. It ends up being actually somewhere between 700 and 1,000 once you add in all the fees, though.
Thank you. Yeah, that's like that. And I think you've explained that a few times, but it's always good to get a refresher on that the fine is actually a very small portion of the total amount. Chief Zenner, I saw you turn on your video. Did you want to make any comments about the bicycle enforcement?
Yes, this isn't a new topic, obviously, we have heard from many people on our enforcement involving bikes. I will admit, we do see at times officers do have some difficulty issuing citations. One thing that would be of note, we do have young individuals out on bikes, and when you enforce laws, you enforce that consistently. What we do lean towards more education, as Alder Johnson has stated. Enforcement doesn't always come with a citation. I've heard people loud and clear, and I will pass that on to officers, but ultimately, I would like to stress, we do focus on education, in particular more when it's coming to bicyclists and the age of bicyclists that we deal with.
Thank you, Chief. I think we've beat this one up pretty good. Are there any additional comments? Alder Jennings.
Yeah, since we're talking about laws and enforcement, and this applies to both people on bikes and people driving cars, it's Wisconsin state law to stop for pedestrians in crosswalks. marked or unmarked. If people are indicating that they're going to cross the street, it is state law to stop for them. I would like to ask anyone the last time you stopped for somebody on Main Street, for example. And that, I'm sorry, includes PD and sheriff as well. The city has a great learning curve to do on for both bicyclists and car drivers and truck drivers. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very good point, Alder Jennings, because I can say that I do that frequently. It's a pet peeve of mine. My wife yells at me because I also yell at bicyclists who don't stop for stop signs, and people who don't stop for pedestrians is a biggie. I did it just today, coming back from lunch on Centerpoint/Water. A couple of cars blew through it. There were two young ladies clearly wanting to cross. One actually was standing on the side of the curb. Nobody stopped. I stopped, and the car behind me laid on its horn and gave me the Jeremy Slawinski's, what did you say, the one finger wave? But yeah, that's important. We all need to follow the rules. And I think that through education and through common sense and paying attention, because that's a biggie. I've gotten a lot of complaints recently about the new striping and the fact that, well, I can't stay within the lines, or you change the arrows and they're going to cause an accident. What that tells me is that you're not being very attentive when you're driving or riding your bike. You should always be vigilant, stay off your phone, don't be eating while driving, pay attention to the signs and the markings on the street, and we'll all get along a lot better. You've heard me say it before, I'm not a big fan of the amount of money that we spent on these, but it's also not the end of the world. We will adapt. People need to pay attention and respect and be courteous to each other. Any last comments? Okay, now it's been a while, but I believe we have a motion to approve and it's been seconded. Is that correct, Clerk Yenter?
Yes, it is.
It is. Okay, so seeing no one else wishing to speak, I am going to ask you to call the roll on this. If you're in favor of the motion, you will vote yes. If you are opposed, vote no.
Jennings,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slawinski,
No.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Leak,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow,
Aye.
10-1.
10-1, those ordinance changes are adopted. I want to remind everybody that we are in the process of reviewing our capital budget. So if anyone watching this later or now has comments or questions regarding the capital budget, we will be bringing that back to the Finance Committee in October for approval at Council in October. And in October, we will also be presenting our recommended operating budget. So this is budget time. There's also Business 51 listening sessions that are going to be coming up. That information is available on our website. I encourage everyone to get involved and be part of the solution rather than complaining about things on social media. So please take that to heart and get involved. And with that, as I said, our closed session item got pulled. So our agenda is exhausted and we will adjourn at 8:30. Everyone have a good night.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.